says you're screen sharing. All right, so today I just want to run through Sitecore online training and why is this a subject? Well, it's a subject for me, and why do I know enough about it? I have a current client, and we're seeing a lot of this, a lot of our engagements where, they brought us, I work for EPAM, they brought us in as a partner to help them with their implementation, and it depends on the implementation, whether or not it's just development, whether it's strategic. It could be everything from content governance, marketing, all of that. It depends on the project, but they'll bring us in as a partner because we're well learned in all of those things and able to help them out. But some companies don't have an IT department. Some companies don't have developers. Some don't have content entry. It depends on the company, but a lot of them do, and they want to learn Sitecore as well. They eventually want to own their own product, even if they're not the ones necessarily building it or not necessarily the ones building all of it. As a result, the current client we have is another one like that, and they asked, well, what Sitecore training should they take? So I had the opportunity to take a look at what Sitecore's current training offerings are, and kind of wanted to talk about them. I think it's more important and more interesting a subject now due to the COVID situation that we've had this year than it was previously, because people want to learn Sitecore, and it's in the various aspects of it. You're not going anywhere in person anymore. You're not going in person to symposiums. That's not the case. And so I was surprised at what I saw in the offerings, and thought it would be something good to talk about for a little bit. No, it's about me. If you guys, don't need to really talk about me. All right, so Sitecore training, the old days. Okay, how did Sitecore training? What was it before, or how has it been traditionally up until more recent times? And I'm sure a lot of people here have done this. I know for sure they have. So when you started out Sitecore training, when they offered it, it was for developers only. I mean, why would anybody else need any training? I mean, the developers developed the thing, and whoever used it, the developers told them how to use it, hopefully. And that was the case. They didn't really offer anything but training as, from the perspective of developing a website. You covered content, which you could do with content, but really only as a necessity for the developers to figure out how to test what they did. They didn't really concentrate on it. Eventually, you did get a content author training that they came out with. I actually technically was certified on content authoring at one point in time for six, I think we did. And you got content, but it really, again, it was just the entering content, workbox, workflow, the kind of basics is what you got. And we talk about how did you do it? Well, it's always in person. I mean, you either went to them or they came to you. And I'll talk about that real quick before we leave. But something that you did see towards the end of what I consider the older era is more and more specialty training on some of the aspects of it. Got to go to New York for what they used to have as advanced. It was the advanced certification. Dean went with me on that one. And we went there really because we were asked to. Partners were supposed to have so many people that were advanced certified. But, and we've both been doing Sitecore for a long time, but we went there. It was a really interesting class because they gave you concepts that were not in the base courses that I felt should have been, everybody should have gotten those. They're really kind of, I think, helpful. And that's kind of really what you got in Sitecore. You either went and you signed up, if you bought it, or if and you went somewhere, and either that or, if you had enough people, it didn't have to be that many, you could get a trainer to come out to you. And that became more and more common than just having trainers. And I have up here the, I don't know how to make this particular thing go away so I can read this. There we go. I have the two things I thought were funny when I do this. So the upper piece here, This is a screenshot from an email from my first Sitecore training. And the bottom part is actually a quote from my first Sitecore training as well. I thought it was kind of a fun bit. Make sure that you're going to have that Pentium 3 and, maybe you could get a gig of RAM. Visual Studio.net and SQL Server were optional. And of course, the most important thing that you could get in that early Sitecore training, the most important thing I can stress is XSL. The more you know about it, and you got a cheat sheet, the faster we're going to get through and the more things we're going to learn in the course. So that's where you kind of got the old days. And, that worked for the time. But what do you get today? And what did I go and kind of survey for our client to let them know what they should take and, how long it would take them and all that kind of stuff, prerequisites. There are a lot of interesting things that they wanted to know because they're not only new to Sitecore, but they're new to .NET in general. So kind of starting from ground zero. So you go to learningsitecore.com, they have a series of, and they actually offer, various types of courses, ones where you can get, kind of like a Zoom, a virtual training, but the standard ones you get are the kind of self-taught courses, and there's a lot that they offer right now. Now, interestingly enough, if you go in there, they break it into these 4 product solutions. And they have like the technical platform, the marketing platform, specifically the experience commerce, and then the managed cloud. That's how they break down the various collections that they offer. Now, we benefit, being a partner, benefit the fact that I had access to all of it. So I was able to survey all of it, including some of the stuff that's not necessarily applicable to the current client. Now, I broke it down into different groupings than Sitecore has, and I really broke it down into what I considered 3 of them from my perspective. And the first one is the developer collections. And, this goes without saying, this is the stuff that you're going to look at if you're a dev, right? I take a look at, I'm I don't have to wait till I get through all these last 3 slides to talk about this here. But to me, you're either a developer or you're a content author, content entry on some level, and it doesn't matter if you're a marketer or what have you. You're dealing specifically with the content. And the last person, the last role you would have would be an IT role, which is really something that is new, that newer than, some of this is much newer, but like the latest thing that Sitecore is, presenting as far as a training opportunity is for that. And I'll talk about that last. I think that's actually really one of the more interesting things that they're offering. But with the developer collections, they have what to consider fundamentals, and that is your standard older Sitecore training. That's what you got. And I'll talk about that here in a second. Then specifically, they have Helix, JSS, and then Commerce itself. Now, what's different about the developer fundamentals training compared to what you used to get in your standard developer training is a much broader experience. There's concentration on, not only do you get everything that you would expect in, this is an item, item has a GUID, they're all items, followed by let's build templates, let's build fields, let's build pages, so on and so forth. And maybe we can make a site stand up and here's your certificate. They cover unit testing. There's more about setting up the solution, setting up, the end-to-ends of what you need to actually develop, and more of a concentration on the components themselves. The platform has evolved and the usage has evolved, and I never really thought that the developer training up until this point had evolved to teach you how you really put a site together, rather than just, fields, templates, let's spit something out on the screen and we're done. It is a much more complete piece. Now, one of the interesting things, and I know here, is that you can still go to the 9.1. They have 9.1 and 9.3. There is no 10, but my understanding for talk to is that 10 is coming soon. Now, the key out of these is that you have the certification test for the Experience 9 developer. That's the one. That's the one you've got to get if you want access to be able to put in support tickets, to be able to go download assets and all that other kind of stuff. And it's always been that way. That's the piece you need. And really that fundamentals one is the one that you're going to need if you look what's in the developer test. Following on that, and you really need to have the first one before you take any of the other ones, obviously, is specifically on Helix. How to structure your project, your solution to meet those standards. The JSS one obviously is newer and it's going to give you the fundamentals on JSS itself, and the commerce is commerce. Again, the key piece here is that you need to take the first one, and it really is a much better course and offering than it used to be. Now, what do these things look like? They're broken into a series of steps. They vary depending on it, but it's a standard theme. They'll provide you some online learning materials, stuff that you're going to read through, links on how to do stuff, videos for sections where you get a real presentation like you would if somebody was teaching something to you. There are review sections. There are quizzes, for lack of a better term, there to see what you learned out of it. And like the key on this one really isn't so much a completion. You're aiming, especially on that the developer fundamentals, to to get you to that certification level so that you can be a Sitecore developer. That's the key there. But code examples and a lot of support pieces are really kind of key to this, and I actually think it's a better system than it is doing any of the in-person stuff. It just, to me, you're able to go back and review. If you if you're sitting there and you're listening to somebody, the best you can do is take notes and then review your notes afterwards. There's no reason you can't go back and stop and watch it. And when you purchase these, you're able to continue to look at them. I'd have to go back and look at it. I think it's 12 months. If you're buying it for 12 months, so you can keep going back and reviewing it. They don't go away. Moving on for the developer collections, our content management, and this is much greater than it was before, where you got kind of a content entry 101. And the web experience management collection, the stuff that's in there, that is much more advanced than in the course I took many years ago when they were first offering a content entry certification. You get a lot more of the, a deeper dive into the features of the product. They do offer, it's different than the developer courses where your end goal is to take that certification test and pass it. This has some of these have a certificate saying that you completed the course. There's no additional charge in there. I should note that if you want to get Sitecore certified, that it's $300 to take the course. If you're not a partner or so, and I think the deals may be different depending. The interesting things out of that, and very similar to the development courses, is the fact that you really kind of need the web experience management stuff. That's the building block. The rest of it can go in any order. You could take which pieces you want or so. Digital marketing optimization is exactly what it sounds like. It's a lot of deep dives into all the features that Sitecore has that marketing is going to be heavy into. You're going to look at all of the tagging of pages and campaigns and all of that kind of stuff that's built in. The SXA course, which interestingly enough, when I first saw this, I thought that this would be a developer course because developing on using SXA is a bit different, but it's actually for the end users to set up sites. Because if you think about the way that SXA works and its intent is to give you WordPress for Sitecore, so you could go in there and create a brand new site and you can theme them differently and reusable components and all that other kind of stuff that are just kind of there for you. And it's the course is heavy on the ability to do that. The last piece that they had there really under content management and content authoring was specifically for commerce. And you can tell that they had it broken down, commerce was its own thing. So the development for commerce was paired with this. But my perspective on it. Obviously, as I was talking about, the roles are a bit different, but they do in this course concentrate heavily on what you would need to do if you're using experience commerce, a lot of the front store stuff, like all of the building blocks and pieces that you would have if you were responsible for setting up that site and maintaining the site, and all of the features and functionality in there. And it's fairly deep. One of the interesting things is they added up, if you bought the entire collection, all of this, I think it's 132 hours, if I remember correctly, is what it said on there for if you wanted to complete it. There's that much learning material. So these are not lightweight courses. Not a single one of them is very lightweight. I think and I don't remember which one of it is. If you go through it, one of them is about 8 hours of materials, and that's the lightest one. Obviously, the other ones take days and days to get through, and to do it right. And that's one of the nice things about being able to go back to the videos and whatnot, is the fact that there's just so much that you can keep reviewing it. And the last piece,
sorry, Brent, I have a question.
Sure.
In these like web experience management or digital marketing optimization, how do they get the virtual environment, or like how do they set it up?
Okay.
Like a local environment, like.
So they walk through, depending on the course, actually, and this is for all of these, depending on the course, they will they'll give you like instructions on how to set up things. So one of the things that the expectation here is that of course, if you're paying for this, you have access to this. For a lot of the development ones, they go through, here's where you go to get, here's where you go to get what you need to set up your site. They walk you through kind of getting the site. For the other ones, they're using examples. So they'll tell you where to go get example sites and stuff like that. The expectation is that it is set up. Now, from my perspective, I hadn't really thought about, I'd have to go back and look at that as to, but the existing sites that Sitecore has put together is what they're expecting as basis for this. Now, whether, none of them from my surveying, and like I said, I haven't taken these, I dug through them. Some of them more heavily than others. But it didn't see it where they're going to be hosting it for you. The expectation is that you would host it yourself, but they do tell you what to start with. They have, they have the sites.
Okay. So they expect you to have a working site, a demo site.
Well, but and more than that, Sitecore has, Sitecore has the sites that it uses as bases, examples, and that's what they're expecting you to use there as your starting point. So that's really kind of how they handle those pieces there. But yeah, no, they're not. It's not like you log on and go to this URL and here's your password and you use it. So the expectation is that you're going to be able to have the pieces set up for you, for learning and whatnot.
I'll jump in a little bit as well, because I have a bunch of information. So in addition to these collections that Brent is showing, Sitecore's just moved over all the Content Hub training materials from the Showpad portal into the Learning portal. So they've now consolidated all of their training courses in one place, which is great. With Content Hub, they do kind of expect you to set up a sandbox for Content Hub. So that's like, there is a discounted price for MVPs, I think. But it's like $300, or maybe it's less than that. But you do get so many days free before it starts charging. So if you can get through the course in like a couple weeks, you won't be charged for it. So that's a way that you can get a sandbox, at least for the Content Hub courses, and that's all software as a service. So that's pretty easy to spin up. I would imagine going forward with some of these other courses that there would be ways to also provision a sandbox for XP, or at least XM.
Yeah, I would suppose for XM. Yeah, but I don't think they're there yet.
No,
The,
no, it may be still a year out, but I think that's part of their drive toward Docker and Kubernetes and other things, is to do a better job of hosting sandbox environments. And I'm sure the training department's going to take advantage of them as soon as those are available.
Yeah, I mean, that's really it. So the, because we're almost at time, I promised I would keep this really short. This is why this is this high level I'm trying to get, so we're not too much. The last thing I want to talk about, and this is an interesting shift for them, is what I consider IT collections. So this is the system admin and the managed cloud collections. So showing how important system administration is for this anymore. There's a certification test. It's not done yet, but it's coming soon. So very much like not just having I completed the course, but an actual take the test, pass the certification, just like you've always done developer. Their systems admin one is coming very soon. Fairly in depth, and most of the stuff that you expect in this. The managed cloud one is, if you go through it, it's very much about preparing whoever in the IT department is responsible for for the Sitecore application and all the related pieces. It's really helping them work with the support staff that you're going to get if you're using the managed cloud, which makes sense. I mean, you've got to have anybody that on your team that needs to interact with the managed, the managed cloud support team. You got to know what you're doing there. You've got to understand what all of that is and whatnot. It's not that just you walk away and everything's managed for you. You've got to have somebody on your side that's responsible, like you would in anything. And so it's very much geared towards that. Like I said, those two courses here, it's something that I'd never seen before. They've had content entry courses for a long time, but the fact that these are offered to me is the biggest sign of how much of a step forward that Sitecore has taken in all of the training. I mean, it's much more robust than it used to be.
And I'll jump in there and add a couple points too. So I recently learned the logic behind the kinds of certificates you get, which is interesting. So if you're a certified developer or you're a certified system administrator, it means that you had a course, you had a test that was actually proctored or led by a Sitecore instructor. If you just have a certificate of completion, that's just something that you took online. But that's the distinction between what's a completion certificate and what's an actual certified developer. I didn't know about the certified administrator though. That's cool. That's
it's not there yet, but it's coming. And they've actually so I surveyed all this stuff this is several months ago. And it was coming soon then, and I checked today just to see if I needed to update this, and it's actually still coming soon. But it's I don't know when soon is soon, but I actually think that it's actually well, I mean, we personally know that it's difficult to find people in DevOps roles that truly know Sitecore in and out, and this kind of having this certification I think is a very, very good move.
There's also a couple things coming as well. I don't have any dates on it, but for partners, they are going to start producing reports, which is super nice, of all the people in your organization that have passed training courses. So instead of having to keep our own lists of who on our team is certified, not certified, we'll be able to pull a report from the portal of who within our company is certified. And I think in the future there will be an opportunity, like a publicly available endpoint as well, for people to validate that this person has actually been certified, which will help for things like recruiting and hiring and that sort of thing, which is great. That's something that Adobe, SAP, a few other, I think Microsoft does this too, offers ways to validate that people have actually taken and passed the courses they said they've had. So these are things that are coming. I think it's going to be on-demand reports at the start, but eventually there may be like an actual API endpoint you can hit and say, tell me what this guy is certified in.
So that was the end of what I was sharing. Like I said, I wanted to keep it short. so that anybody wants to drop off now, and if not, we chat more, or we can see you in the next 2 weeks. Just want to make sure that nobody feels that they have the 45-minute to hour and a half or the 2-hour obligation, like we did in person for this. But that's all I had, in case anybody has any questions.
Do you know if the systems administrator training is going to include the container stuff, or is it just Sitecore 9 stuff right now?
When I surveyed it, was just Sitecore 9 stuff. I'd actually have to go back and look. Like I said, this was built off of work that I did. It was probably about 3 months ago that I looked at it. So I don't know if it's been updated to include Docker stuff. I kind of doubt it, but I would expect it, because they're not even doing the 10 fundamentals yet. But it's supposed to be something that is, on the horizon.
I hope it happens soon, because they are really pushing for everything to go Docker Kubernetes. And I mean, they're basically cutting support for PaaS next fall with 10.2. So I would hope that they would have their administrator training materials ready to go before that time.
And you know what, Naveed and Ed are going to talk in a couple of weeks about Sitecore 10 and some of the changes. And what I'll do is I'll go back and look. I'll go back and look so that next meeting we could talk about whether or not that they've started including any training for that. So I'll go see if any of that's been updated.
I will say, I mean, their training's come a long way in the last couple of years.
It's way better.
Yeah, and we've even, we got recruited actually by Sitecore for doing beta testing, which was actually very interesting to see some of the courses like still in beta. I think a lot of the courses, I would, like, before you recommend them to like new Sitecore people, I would recommend like going through them yourselves, because even with some of the beta testing that they're doing, I think the quality is still a bit uneven. There are some courses that are great, and then there are others that are really, really, really dull, that you could probably shortcut with them with like a couple good checklists. But there are, but it's worth reviewing again, because they've gone back and they've made updates. Like, a few months ago, I took the Helix one again, and it's vastly improved over the original Helix materials that were done. So they are building on them, and they do seem to be, incorporating feedback as the community comes back to them with which ones work and which ones don't. So it's definitely worth checking out. I think that they're, finally a resource that we can actually recommend. But I would make sure you survey the course yourself first before recommending it to others, because some are fantastic and others are, maybe you skip over this one.
Yeah, for the client that I was doing it for, we're not doing SXA and we're not doing commerce. And so the ones that I concentrated more heavily on to see, because they were interested in not only what was the skill sets that they needed. So I had to put a matrix together of, okay, this is what you actually need to know before you take even this course here. But they were interested in how long it would take. So I had to go in there and see, okay, well, this developer course is going to take you this many days, and this is going to take you this, because of course they're plotting out costs and amount of like man hours they're going to lose while people take this. So it was important to figure out how, and Dean saying some of them are lightweight. Obviously the developer course is not. But the content entry course is also not lightweight. There's quite a lot of stuff in there. It's not like it was when I took I think it was 6.6 that we were, I think it was 6.6 that we were doing or so when I took it with our content entry team, and it was a day or whatever it was.
And I have not taken it myself, but I've heard from, because we've put, I don't know, probably about 10 or 20 people through the Content Hub mock implementation exercise, which is one of the things you can sign up for through the portal. And I've heard really good things about it, that 4-day session is actually really good about taking you through the ins and outs, and that's also instructor led. They want you to take the collection first, and then you can sign up for the mock implementation exercise. But everybody that I reached out to said that it was really great, and that includes a couple different disciplines like developers as well as BA type staff. They were all
Oh yeah, it was BAQA too, right?
yeah, sort of PMs, BAs,
Yeah,
QAs
BA,
all sort of
QAs.
take the same subset, and
Yeah.
then developers to kind of take everything.